Travis Wayne Goodsell. I need to get to the Heber C. Kimball video ASAP, despite being way behind on other things. This got pushed to the front of the line as I discovered another Mormon fake news story about church history. And so, yeah, we need to get to it right now. All right, so first off, York Rites, Scottish Rites were the main lodges. They are not the same. They start off the same: entered apprentice, fellow craftsman, and then master mason. Those are the three main that apply to both. Master Mason is required in order to run your own lodge. The differences are within each, where there's degrees for Scottish Rites. In the York Rites, they're not called degrees. They're just given titles. In the Scottish Rites, it's more intricate, as it depends on where you're located. As I'm reviewing, trying to find where Abraham Jonas got the title of Grand Master, which the church is saying is a York Rites ranking, and no, it's a Scottish Rites ranking. And so I'm trying to find where Grand Orator is, and I can't find Grand Orator among the Scottish Rites, but Grand applies to the Scottish Rites degrees. There is no Grand in the York Rites, as I can verify. Whoops. No. Alright, so entered apprentice, fellow craft, master mason, mark mason, past master, virtual, most excellent master, Royal Ark Mason, Order of Red Cross, Order of Knights Malta, and Order of Knights Templar. That's the York Rites. Notice no Grand in there. So for him to be a Grand Master, it would be in the Scottish Rites. So people who are claiming that he was a Grand Master of the York Rites, they're lying to you. That's not how it works. The question is, where is Grand Master? Because there is no actual Grand Master all by itself. There's a Grand Elect Master at the 14th degree, and that's the northern jurisdiction, which would cover New York. But he was in Illinois, and Illinois, I think, is still in the northern jurisdiction. And so that's most likely what it was in 1840, was that he became a Grand Elect Mason of the 14th degree. Yeah, there's no Grands before that in any of the other areas. There's the southern jurisdiction, northern jurisdiction, Canada, and England and Wales. And there's differences as you go through the rankings. So he was a 14th degree Grand Elect Mason in 1840 in the Scottish Rites Warsaw Lodge. So if anybody's trying to pull off that he was York Rites, throw a shoe at him and call him a liar. But he became a Grand Oracle in 43, and I have no idea where Oracle comes from. I can't find Oracle. Grand Pontiff, but that's of the southern jurisdiction. It would be a brother of the trail for the northern jurisdiction. That's the next grand that pops up after the Grand Elect Mason. Yeah, I'm not finding Oracle. Venerable Grand Master for England and Wales at the 20th degree after the Grand Pontiff, which is 19th degree. The next Grand Grand Inspector, the 30th degree. That's the inner circle. Once you reach 30th to 32nd, you can then appoint the honorary title of Inspector General. Oh, wait, we have an Inspector General at the United States. Of a 33rd degree rank above the 32nd degree, which is the highest rank of Master of the Royal Secret. I wonder what secret they're hiding. The Sovereign Grand Inspector General, other than the Southern, which is just Inspector General. Grand Inspector is the northern jurisdiction, whereas Wales has Grand Elected Knight Kadosh, or Knight of the White and Black Eagle. The 32 degrees, the seal, is the two eagles of the, it's supposed to be 32nd, yeah. It's showing, I can't quite see the second number. It almost looks like a 5, and I know it can't be a 5. But it doesn't look like the 3, the first 3. I'm pretty sure it's a 32nd because I've seen others that have 32nd degree. But yeah, the two-headed eagle, which is the same seal of Russia, which they adopted in 1918 or 19, or 1912, one of those years. So, yeah, not a coincidence. This is important because sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. It's important because of what this shouldn't have happened to the Smiths then. So this causes a bit of confusion. Joseph Smith should, well, he never became a member because Hiram was Yorkites in Palmyra. And so there are rules, as I'm indicating here. If you have family members, direct family, you cannot be in the same lodge as a member. You know, you can visit, but you cannot become a member of the same lodge that a family member is already a member of. This is why Brigham Young did not become a Scottish Rites member, because his older brothers had become members of the other Scottish Rites lodges, and so he was not able to participate because of the 1826 anti-Mason movement that burned down the Scottish Rites lodges. And we get to talk about that with Heber C. Kimball. Another significance is once you are approved to become a member, you don't automatically become a member. You have to attend the meetings on a regular basis, and then you get voted in. If you don't get voted in, they don't let you in. You can't become a member just by saying you attend church. It's like going to the Mormon church. You can't claim you're a member because you're attending the Mormon church. Even if you're partaking of the sacrament, you're not a member until you're approved and baptized. And so it's the same with Freemasonry back then. The other thing is that once you become a member, you likewise have to continue as that member at that level, and have to continue to be faithful to the lodge, the temple, in order for you to advance up in rank over a period of time. You don't rush like it was done with Joseph Smith, but they needed a master mason for the lodge, and so they rushed it. And the Warsaw Lodge was furious with the Grand Elect Master, Abraham Jonas, because of that. And then Joseph went and started bringing in hundreds of Mormons, and that also upset the Warsaw Lodge members, because all of them had to wait and go through the time necessary and prove their loyalty and to get advanced in rank. And here the Mormons, and so it got a little out of control, and Abraham Jonas had to disqualify the lodge, whatever it's called, in disqualifying them. But Joseph continued to, I hope she got her package. I haven't shut the window yet, so I'm able to see out. And so the, oh, that's not the time. and so there's a time frame in which people can advance, and you can't skip, which is why I'm kind of confused as to where this oracle level is, because it's not after Grand Elect Mason. Because what's after Grand Elect Mason is Knight of the East or Knight of the Sword. And I don't see that as an oracle. I'm pretty sure I understand what an oracle is. So it must be an honorary position or an award of some kind, as far as I can figure, because it doesn't seem to be an actual ranking for him. And so you can't just skip ranks. You can't be a member one day and then jump to a Master Mason the next, like Joseph Smith was made. You're supposed to take your time, prove your loyalty, and advance properly. The other thing, which is why I'm shocked that Abraham Jonas was Scottish Rites and not York Rites, as I had originally thought, because the church claimed he was, is that you can't switch. You can't be a member of both. You're either Scottish Rites or you're York Rites. You can't mix. On my mission in New York, I was in Brooklyn. Or was it Newburgh? No, it was Newburgh. And in Newburgh, you know how in Utah you have a church on every corner? Well, in Newburgh, New York, you had a Christian church on every corner. And it wasn't the big buildings, rich, elite, glamorous buildings of the Mormon church. You had your humble storefront churches and home churches and apartment churches. So just little meeting rooms. But a ton of them were like that. And one church had a name that was so long, I don't know what they would call it. if they would actually go through the whole title. I mean, you think the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is long. This was like the Son of the Lamb of the Holy Sepulchre of the Mary Virgin Cross, you know, just a whole bunch of just pulling out words from the New Testament. And it was on a sign, a wood sign. But we met a guy who wanted to be baptized. And we said, oh, okay, well, we'll start and give you the lessons. It doesn't matter, I just want to be baptized. I'm already a member of all the other churches. I want to be a member of your church too, so that I have all my bases covered, whichever church turns out to be true after I'm dead. And so, no, he didn't get baptized. But it's similar in Masonry. You can't be a member of each and every one of them, and you can't just switch. You can't just say, oh, I no longer want to be a Scottish Rites member, I'm going to become a trader and become a York Rites. So these are important backgrounds when I get to Heber C. Kimball here, and the claims about him that he made himself, which exposes him as a fraud. And so those are the key elements that you need to understand in Masonry before I get started here. Let's see. I think I'll bring up, okay, I got the picture up, so I'll leave the picture up, although I probably won't need it. Now let's find the, there's a website, and I downloaded the PDF of the site, so I'm going to need to bring it up on my computer here. Okay, that's the one I already have up in Word. Let's see, Heber C. Kimball? No, not Heber C. Kimball. Leo Trivia 1 through 6, I believe is the one. Is the file name that they made for it when I downloaded it. And it's page number 25. It's titled Tidbits of Masonic Trivia. So you could probably Google search Tidbits of Masonic Trivia, and it may pull up for you. If you put PDF at the end, you're most likely guaranteed to find it, or it'll come up for you. It's page 25. It's 9, 15, 18, 22, 4, 5. Okay, so on page 25, under Educators, Religious Leaders, and Others, you have Heber C. Kimball. You don't have the Smiths. They were earlier in this thing. And interestingly, they claim that the Masonic Temple was dedicated 5th of April, 1844. I don't know of the accuracy of that. Oh man, he didn't let Janice off early. Bus drivers. But I don't think that's the Masonic Temple. I'd have to further check on that. Like I said, I only did the research up to 1829 for the Book of Mormon background. And so all this other stuff is stuff I haven't verified, researched, and checked. And so I'm aware of the Nauvoo Temple, which is different than the Masonic Temple. But I do know that the Masonic Temple was also being built along with the Nauvoo Temple. And so it's interesting that they put 5th of April, which corresponds to the date of the organization of the church, which was 6th of April. And so I can see why they'd want to do it on that date. But the Nauvoo Temple was built and designed by Brigham Young after Joseph's death and got completed in 1846, and Mormons were pissed that he didn't dedicate it on April 6th because of that reason of the founding of the church. They instead had to celebrate or dedicate it, as Brigham Young wanted it, on the 1st of May. So this is significant if it's true that Joseph Smith dedicated the Mason Temple on 5th of April of 1844. Again, I have to verify and check if that information is correct. But that would make Brigham Young's move even more brazen and confirm even more that Brigham Young purposely was sending a message about his corruption. But under this section here, under the Tidbits article, Heber C. Kimball, 1823, Victor Flats Lodge, Ontario County, New York. Victor Flats does not exist. It's gone. It's one of those townships that have disappeared over time. I can't find Victor Flats elsewhere on Google. Google Maps obviously doesn't have it. There is a Flats in Ontario County, but not a Victor Flats, or sorry, Victor. Yeah, there's a Victor, but not a Victor Flats. I'm assuming it would be near Victor, Ontario, New York. And the interesting thing is that Victor is a little too far west to be a Yorkites lodge, and thus it is in the district of the Scottish Rites. The Scottish Rites and Yorkites were in districts, and so Palmyra and Canandaigua, which I'm going to have to, can I just say Canadian? Because I'm going to have to use this word a lot in this video, and we're already up to 23 minutes already. And they're in strips, and so on the left or the right side of the Yorkites of the Smiths, Palmyra, and the one Joseph Smith Sr. was at, Canadian one, was Scottish Rites, and then Scottish Rites to the left of them, and then Batavia, where the print press for William Morgan, that was again in the Yorkites district. So that's how they split up the districts in western New York. And so, yeah, Victor falls in the Scottish Rites region, district. And so this gets confusing when the church makes the critical error of calling Abraham a Yorkites lodge member. And so, yeah, you can't trust the church for information on their own church history. They just lie and they cover it all up. And so we can confirm further as I'll get into it here. So I don't need this anymore. Alright, so let's bring up the Heber C. Kimball from Wikipedia that I downloaded. Oh, no, this is the comment that I made to the other guy. So I need, where is it? There it is, it's PDF, not the Word. Okay. Alrighty, so the Heber C. Kimball Wikipedia site has some interesting lies. So Masonry. In 1823, Kimball received the 3 craft degrees. No, you can't. You cannot get all 3 craft degrees at the same time, in the same year. You need time. Joseph Smith Sr., for example, became a Master Mason in 1818. And this was after he had moved to Palmyra previous to that. And then it seems that he had become a member in Vermont of a York Lodge because he names his son, born in 1800, Hiram, after Hiram Abiff. Court documents show that Hiram was spelled after the Freemason spelling. So 1838, for example, when Hiram is arrested, under Joseph Smith criminal record in Wikipedia, it shows that Joseph Smith was arrested with a number of other Mormons, and Hiram Smith is listed in there. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, that's not Hyrum, that's Hiram. Huh. I don't recognize that Mormon name, and there's nothing to link him to someone else like others are. And Mormons apparently didn't catch it, or they don't know to catch it, or they don't want to catch it. Hiram Smith was also arrested in 1838, and he used his birth certificate name, Hiram, Hiram. And so that indicates that Joseph Sr. not only was involved in Hebrew with the New Israelites, because they were into Jewish mysticism, and Hiram is a Hebrew word, and it's in the Bible, the Old Testament, but also it was the name of Hiram Abiff of the Freemasonic ritual of the murder mystery play that they put on, where Hiram Abiff is murdered and the Masons have to find out who murdered him and where the body is, and bring the body and bury the body and all that stuff. So, and it's Solomon's Temple time period. So yes, when you read in the Book of Mormon that Nephi builds a temple after the manner of King Solomon, not a coincidence. As well as the Tree of Life dream corresponding to Jewish mysticism. Not a coincidence. Okay, so, and here, notice they're calling it degrees in the Wikipedia page, meaning Scottish rites, because degrees are not in the York rites. It's not a degree. And technically, the first 3 are not degrees in Scottish rites either, although the next one is 4th degree. And so I guess they call it degrees, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, but York rites don't call it degrees. And so that's another indicator of Scottish rites being flagged there. And they say of the lodge at Victor Flats, Ontario County, New York. And as I indicated, it was in the district of the Scottish Rites, confirming their use of degrees in their manner of speech. And so here we get to the next curious thing, because first of all, they violate the rules of Freemasons by saying he advanced 3 degrees in 1 year. When the Warsaw Lodge got furious that Joseph Smith was advanced 3 degrees and skipped a degree in 2 days. So, like I said, there are rules. You have to follow the rules. And so they're claiming Heber C. Kimball became a Master Mason, as well as becoming a member in 1823, which means that he was the Master Mason of the Victor Flats, Ontario County, New York Lodge. Because a Master Mason is the one who has his own lodge. That's why Joseph Smith Sr. became a Master Mason, became the Master Mason of the Canadian Lodge further south of his farm. And Hiram got to be in the Palmyra Lodge because he didn't have the car. If you remember that video I did on that. And so, yeah, Joseph Smith Sr. had the car. He's the father, he had the car. And so he was able to travel out further and go to the other lodge where he became the Master Mason. And it's important because here, Heber C. Kimball is the one who they get this information from. So Heber C. Kimball says that he, in 1824, he sent a petition. Now, why is he doing this? He's already a Master Mason of his own lodge. He would go to another Scottish lodge in order to advance to the rank that he is claiming he wants to be made of. He sent a petition to the chapter at Canandaigua, New York, in 1824. Remember, Joseph Smith Sr. is the Master Mason here. Heber C. Kimball is not mentioning Joseph Smith Sr. I told you this was going to blow your mind. He's not mentioning this. This is where Joseph Smith Sr. is the Master Mason. Because Joseph Smith became the Master Mason of this lodge in 1818. And so this is 1824, a year. You see, it took 18 years for Joseph Smith Sr. to rise to a Master Mason level. 18 years. And apparently Kimball becomes a Master Mason of the Scottish Rites Lodge in 1823 and rises up to Master Mason that same year. And so the next year, he now wants to become a York Rites Lodge ranking higher than Master Mason, skipping a whole bunch. And let me show you how much he's skipping. The Royal Arc Mason is rank number 7. It's not 7th degree. They don't have degrees in York Rites. That's number 7. You have Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, Master Mason, Mark Master, Past Master, Most Excellent Master, and then Royal Arc Mason. What is he doing? If he's a Master Mason, that's 3. He wants to skip the Mark Master, the Past Master, the Most Excellent Master, and go straight to Royal Arc Mason? So you can see something's afoot. But what's also interesting is William Morgan, also in 1824, comes to Western New York and is hanging out at the lodge of Smith Sr. in the Canadian Lodge. He is a Royal Arc Master. Huh. So you see what's going on here? Heber C. Kimball is giving clues that he knew of what destroyed his temples in 1826 with the anti-Mason movement involving William Morgan, who was arrested in Canada, in the Canada Lodge area, and which means that Joseph Smith Sr., as the Master Mason, would have known William Morgan, would have helped him get out of the country through Niagara Falls, New York. That whole incident that is not fully described accurately, you have to go to his ancestors' webpage for more information that is not fully revealed unless you know where to look and how to investigate and research and confirm that ancestors' information, which I did. And so here he says he sent a petition to the chapter at Canandaigua in New York to receive the Yorkite degrees of Royal Ark Masonry. It's not degree. Again, they're not understanding Freemasonry, whoever wrote this. But it's Heber C. Kimball that they got this information from. No, they don't reference this at all, but it comes from Heber C. Kimball. I saw it somewhere. It must have been somewhere else that I saw it. I think it was actually the Mormon Church's page on Masonry in the church, talking about Heber C. Kimball said this and Heber Kimball said that. Yeah, well, it's also right here. Many years later, Kimball reminisced of his New York Masonic experiences and put in a quote. So that's where they're getting the information from, most likely. His petition, he claims, was accepted. And so he's saying Joseph Smith Sr. approved a Scottish Rites Master Mason to become a York Rites Royal Ark Mason. Do you see how ridiculous this is? I mean, Heber C. Kimball knew all of this was a lie. You don't just stumble into Masonry and you're clueless about how things work and organized and all this, and you just tell people that what you think happened. No, you know. That's why you have to remain a member for a certain period of time. You have to attend for a certain period of time before you become a member. You have to show your loyalty, which means you learn all about Masonry in order to be moved up in rank and become a member even. So for Kimball to be recording this, reminiscing, he's lying, outright lying, purposely withholding information that he doesn't want revealed. And he says his petition was accepted by Smith Sr. He doesn't use Smith Sr.'s name. He leaves him out. Although, as Kimball reported, anti-Masons had burned down the chapter building in Canandaigua. Well, of course, 1826, 2 years later. He's trying to claim, no records, I guess you can't prove it, but I did become a Royal Ark. He's just lying. Liar! Where's my shoe? So this is just unbelievable. Shocking that he would lie, and that Mormons are perpetuating the lie, as the church is perpetuating the lie on their website. this is just wrong. And so I think this is, let me check my notes. 20 years, 1824, Royal Ark, 1823, Scottish is not right. Okay, so all of that was covered. Let me check my reply to the guy that after I did my initial research. Most likely near Victor, which was in the district of Scottish Lodge. Yeah, 1823 was when Alvin Smith dies. Okay. It just blows my mind, but claims the records were destroyed in 1826 with the anti-Mason movement, knowing that he knew the Smiths. So yeah, because of the way he words it, or at least as worded in Wikipedia, he claims he's violated the order by rising 3 levels in 1 year, and then switching to a new lodge, which they're getting wrong anyway, because Abraham was a Scottish Rites Lodge. The Warsaw Lodge was Scottish Rites. And so the Nauvoo Lodge in 1842, or one, wasn't it? Or was it 2? I think it was 2, 1842. 41 was when they were allowed to hold meetings, and then 42 was, yeah, because that's the Relief Society meeting was the 17th after the 15th, when Joseph Smith became a Master Mason himself. And so, yes, wow. So lots of violating going on here in Masonryville and the LDS Church, because you have Hiram Smith, who's a member of the now burned down Palmyra Lodge of New York for the York Rites. Smith Sr. had already died in 1838, and then you have Joseph Smith, who had been attending the meetings, the various meetings, as often as I could, and was unsure as to which I should choose, because they all used the Bible differently. What? He was talking about Masonry, not churches? And so he had been attending most likely the Palmyra Church, Mason Temple Lodge, but couldn't become a member because of Hiram Smith being a member already. And so Joseph Smith could have become a Scottish Rites Mason because he had not become a member of the York Rites. He had just been attending the meetings. But Hiram Smith was not to be allowed to become a Scottish Rites Mason after he had already been a York Rites member. So that information has been switched on me, as I had originally thought that it was Brigham and Heber who wrongfully, well, not Brigham because he didn't become a member because of his brothers, but his brothers became members later also. And so Heber then, I thought, was the one who violated this by becoming a York Rites member. But no, Abraham is Scottish Rites. So this has been that explains it then. The Nauvoo Temple has the inverted pentagram of the Scottish Rites Lodge symbolism. And so the Salt Lake Temple with the Seagull Gate, inverted pentagrams. And Logan Temple, inverted pentagrams, because of the Scottish Rites Lodge, which was infiltrated by the Illuminati. The Illuminati being the followers of Lucifer, the god of light, the morning star, to destroy the world. And so when Brigham Young dedicated the Nauvoo Temple on the 1st of May of the anniversary of the Illuminati, rather than the 6th of April for the anniversary of the Joseph's organization. Wow. So yeah, Joseph was trying to build up a lodge with the Kirtland Temple. He used religion as the cover, because after the anti-Mason movement, if you said you were building a temple for your Freemason lodge members, the townsfolk still had post-traumatic stress of the William Morgan incident. My goodness, what a scandal. Let's see, level 7. I'm checking over to see if there's anything more I need to add to this, because as you can tell, there's a lot more to talk about, not just with 1842, but with the infiltration of the Danites of Brigham Young's Scottish Rites. That's who the Danites were. They were the Scottish Rites Mormon, or converts into Mormonism, that Brigham Young converted with his missionary efforts, as he went alone, occasionally with Heber C. Kimball, as they would meet up here and there, but for the most part, Brigham Young went alone so that he could be alone with the men's wives. And that scandal followed Brigham Young through all his life, even into England, when he went to England, and Maine. Maine, there's the story of a child who remembers Brigham Young coming into the home and going into the bedroom with mommy. But yeah, there's also a quote by Brigham Young saying that he was the one who came up with the idea for polygamy while he was in his mission in England, not Joseph, which confirms that Joseph had nothing to do with polygamy. Brigham Young lied. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother hour video, which I've already discussed in other areas, but didn't mention he was just claiming a large. It appears Heber was also lying on Master Mason. Yeah, so I cover it. 20 years, William Morgan. So yeah, Heber C. Kimball is revealing the clues that he knew about William Morgan. Heber C. Kimball also had been found with William Morgan's attributed book from the Batavian Press, Illustrations of Freemasonry. Is that what it was called? And yeah, that was not William Morgan's book, because William Morgan had to be secreted out of the country by Joseph Smith Sr. And that's why David Miller of the Batavian Press had to figure out some way to recoup his money losses, and published the first 3 of both Scottish and York Rites instead, as if that were the book he was intending to write, which is not. Because the majority of people were Masons, but the whole scandal caused fear and panic in everybody, and so everybody turned on Masonry, and thus why the Danites wanted revenge on not just the people who burned down the temples, but also on the Smiths, who were the orchestrators of disappearing William Morgan out of the country. And so Heber C. Kimball reveals that he knew this, as he says he went to Joseph Smith Sr.'s lodge and asked to become a Royal Ark, and was accepted, as he claims. He's given the clues that Heber knows. And of course, Smith Sr. was dead and couldn't confirm. And of course, the temple was also destroyed, thus all the records were destroyed. And so that's why Heber thought he could get away with it. Nope! Nope. Alrighty. So I think that covers it. Man, that is dark. And so yeah, when you realize Heber C. Kimball, after the assassination by Brigham and Heber's orders, they were the ones that contacted the Warsaw Lodge, the Scottish Rites Warsaw Lodge. And so they're, the church now claims it was those mob of Scottish Rites Masons, the same ones who made them Masons in the Scottish Rites Lodge. But interestingly, even though Heber was a master Mason, he accepted the lowly stature of entered apprentice until Brigham Young advanced him to, what is it, as a first counselor? Where are you? Come on. Let's see, Brigham Young would have been the sublime prince of the royal secret. So possibly Heber C. Kimball, therefore, was the 31st degree, the General Inspector Inquisitor Commander. That would be my guess. But both of them would have given themselves the honorary title of Sovereign Grand Inspector General, which I think is actually different on the northern jurisdiction. So it's unclear as to what they would have adopted from in Utah or in Deseret, as they called their kingdom. Yeah, for the other ones, other than the southern, Brigham Young would have been the sublime prince of the royal secret, rather than the master of the royal secret. And the northern jurisdiction for the 31st degree is Knight Aspirant, rather than Inspector Inquisitor. So, man. And then Willard Richards, the second counselor, would have been the Grand Inspector for the northern jurisdiction, as the 30th degree. So here I am thinking that we were Yorkites, and I did the video on the comparison of the priesthood of Joseph Smith with the Yorkites things, and that is true. Under Joseph Smith's Freemasonry and temple with the priesthood, that's the way it is. And so it's weird that Brigham Young kept that and claimed York rights when they were Scottish rights. Also weird, because we don't have 32 priesthood offices to justify this for Scottish rights in the Mormon Church. We have the symbolisms with the inverted pentagram of Hail Satan, Lucifer. Is that an SNL skit? But man, this is just wild, crazy stuff. I want to be a knight of Jerusalem. Wow. Or a knight of valor. Or a brother of the forest. Knight of St. Andrew, Knight of the Sun. That's probably what I would want to be. Because good soul. Soul for Soleil, meaning sun, and then good means God. From the England Druids, we were the high priests there in England back in the 16th century, or yeah, is it 16th or is it 15th? No, 16th is the 1500s. That's as far back as I can find the good cells going. And so we probably came from Germany or Prussia at that time, as it was before that. We just haven't found the connection to link us to Prussia. Alrighty, isn't that a Wild Toads adventure? Do they even still have that ride, or is that too wild for kids?